welcome back to the Work in Progress podcast. This is the third show of the new show, Question Time. Today, I'm joined by my cousin. It's Harvey.
Hello.
You may have seen him, of course, from YouTube, Red and Blue site.
Or not.
Or not, yeah. 90 men, whatever. You've probably seen him around. As you can see from my background, I'm at Sellers Park. Unfortunately, none of us are at Sellers Park, and we won't be for the foreseeable future. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about how we are coping without sport in general. So Harvey, how are you coping?
Oh, mate, it's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's tough for me personally because, you know, sport's a big part of my life. Growing up, of course, and at school, I was head of sport at school. And, you know, and then going into university where I did a sports-based subject at university. And so my whole life's kind of revolved around sport.
Yeah.
So to then just all of a sudden it's all cut out of your life, not just football, but sport in general. It is a big deal. It is a big deal. And it doesn't take long to notice how much it's impacting on your everyday life and the way you approach things every day. It's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's tough. You've got to come up with new ideas and try and take your mind off of things.
Is it? So it's not so much about just like let's specify in football. It's not about like it's not being on, but it's like everything around it. So like the press in the media, what they're talking about. Oh, the rumors in the there's a bust up in the training camp. Everything that goes with football in general and sport. That's the killer more so than.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, obviously, football is the main sport that not just me, but millions of people across the world love. Biggest sport in the world. But and with football in particular, and you know this because you've been with me to loads of Palace games in the past, and you know the routine on a Saturday, Saturday afternoon, we've got like a set routine, and you're with a set group of people, and it's not just the actual sport itself, and you know. Being a Palace fan, we know that more than most people. That it's not just about the sport. It's like the occasion, the atmosphere, some of the people you meet along the way. I mean, maybe not so much me, but I know from friends and from other family members and you know close friends that I've met over the years that it's about people that they meet along the way and the relationships that they build. All of a sudden, you're cutting off those relationships. People you may only meet at a game once a week.
Yeah.
And communicate with them, you know. So it's not just the actual sport itself; it's what it brings to a group of people and to other people. And it goes back to what I said. It's tough, you know. Taking not just the sport, but the sense of community out of your life. It's tough.
It's definitely a killer as well because I presume you've seen what's happened in the Dutch league, how they've just scrapped it as well. So
interesting.
Like, obviously on Twitter you get loads of people talking about Liverpool, they have to win the league, they're this X amount of points clear. So how do you think that will impact just football in general, the fact that if they cut off the season and nothing matters, so no relegation, which is good, but then obviously you've got Leeds or whatever, or championship teams that aren't going to promote, you know, everything that goes with that. I think it could, it just, how would that, I don't know how that can work, like what's going to come from it next?
It's really tough, and you know, anyone who does follow me on Twitter at Red and Blue site, by the way, I'm just going to do a cheap plug in there. Sorry, Joe. But anyone who knows that on my social media, it's very football biased. You know, there's a lot of football accounts I follow, and it's just talking about football in general, not just fans, but obviously people in the media as well. So I get a lot of interesting, you know, a lot of opinions going back and forth, and you get a really interesting idea from loads of people about the situation. I think that a lot of people, including myself, are at the viewpoint where you've just got to kind of, it's so tough, but you've got to just get on with it. It's such a one-off. It's never going to happen again in our lifetimes, and hopefully, fingers crossed, for generations to come. But it's something that if it came to voiding the season for the sake of, you know, not just protecting people and keeping people safe and not letting us all go back into grounds too early, but I think for the protection and financially for not just football or other sports, but for the country, the economy as well. They cramming loads of games into a short space of time to finish off a season may not logistically be possible. If it's the best case scenario, if voiding all football in the country for this season is the best case scenario, you kind of just got to accept it and move on, as tough as it is, especially for, off the top of my head, as you mentioned, Liverpool fans and Leeds United fans. They're the two fans that come to my mind when you talk about voiding the seasons that they're having right now. as tough as it is for them, and it must be awful, you've got to kind of just keep your head up and accept it, that it's a one-off, and it's the best. That if it comes to that decision, it's the best for the country. It's the best for the sport. It's not going to be just to have a dig at those sets of fans or to try and put them down. It's just it's the best thing to do in the scenario that we're in.
Have you seen as well though that there could be more berries kind of thing because of the fact that there is no gate revenue or anything like that. There's no, all of these lower league teams could go bust. Like we could see a whole new wave of teams come in and a whole new wave of teams go out.
Of course, from some League One sides, from their point of view and from teams obviously below them, it's an awful situation to be in, and that is where you think football, UEFA, FIFA, the Premier League, all the big companies in football and sporting corporations, where they can come together and there can be some sort of financial package that could be sent down to the lower leagues and to the teams that are going to be struggling. And as you mentioned, Bury FC, there could be multiple teams that fall into that sort of scenario, and no one wants to see that. It was awful when it happened to Bury and almost happened to Bolton at certain times in their history as well. So yeah, it's awful, and it's where, as bad as that side of it can be, it's also a chance to see the good side of football and sport in general, when people can come together. We've seen from Palace have done brilliantly during this coronavirus, as have a number of clubs. Zaha giving away his properties for NHS staff to stay in. It's just one of many things that the club have done to try and support the NHS staff and to try and show that football teams and football in general, everyone can come together and create something good. So for every bad scenario that could happen out this and is happening, there is also some good things as well. So it's so tough.
The clubs, the most recent thing is that they posted today is the club chefs are cooking meals for key workers, so NHS workers.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. So it's incredibly, as I said already loads of times, it's an incredibly tough scenario, and we've all just got to keep our heads up, and you've got to get on with it. There's nothing you can do to stop it or change it now. We've got to get through it and then see what happens on the other side and try and rebuild.
I think more so going back to because obviously it's how are you individually coping with it, because it is such a big impact of every football fan's life. Especially this season, I've been watching so much more football. I didn't normally watch West Ham versus Southampton, but I watched it this time around. It was like my whole weekend was revolved around it. But that's why I'm quite surprised that I don't particularly miss it. I don't, as much as I thought I would. I'm not going to. It's not Saturday, and I'm thinking, because the weekend's just gone, I'm not thinking, Jesus, where was the football? It's just I'm just getting on with it. I don't really notice it's not there, which is surprising.
No, that's a good thing, really. The fact you can get on with it, and we all, anyone who knows you knows you're a big fan of football, obviously, and for anyone who may be on social media to suggest that if you're not a dire football fan because you're not missing it is stupid as well. There's two sides to everything, and I think that it's something that you don't have to miss it to not, or you don't have to feel like you're missing something like football to not want to be back there, and to not you're just dealing with it better than other people. I'm dealing with it quite well, I think, even though it is a big part of my life, football in general. I think the main thing that I personally feel like I'm missing out of it is not even just Palace, although I am hugely missing Palace. I find myself, especially when I'm not doing much at home, I find myself when football is around, watching games from other leagues and enjoying them. So if there's a championship game on, a good point would be in the playoffs last season when Sunderland against Charlton in the League One playoff final, and it was Charlton who scored a last-minute goal to go up, and Sunderland stayed in League One. I was like, obviously it's Charlton. I'm not a Charlton fan by any means, but you couldn't help but be amazed at the scenes and to see the fans. And it's that sort of thing. It's just enjoying the sport for what it is, not just because it's Palace, but I love football in general. That's annoying. So you go on to Sky Sports and it's just reruns of everything, which is great, but there's nothing beats a live match, both at the ground and watching it at home. It's just entertainment, and that's a big part of everyone's life. The entertainment factor is gone as well.
I find it quite funny as well. You see, Sky Sports, they're really scraping the barrel with anything. They're or BT, they're posting, look at this 2006 Champions League final, just to keep yourself entertained.
It's great though. Yeah. But then it's the full game they put up there, so it's it's entertainment, and we're all drawn to it.
Yeah.
You know what happens, but it's a classic game from the past, and there's no other football on, so of course you're going to watch it.
Mm. Have you because obviously we've when did it go away? March 10th, the season.
Yes, I've lost track myself, to be honest. I think it
Yeah.
was the start of March. It was like the first week that the season stopped.
So I was, because obviously in Question Time, if you watch the previous 2 episodes, I go to an external source as I get some more information. And surprisingly, on today's date, the 27th of April, there's talks of it, the season being returning, but being played at a neutral ground and behind closed doors. June 8th, they're trying to say it's going to return.
Yeah. Again, I'm sure they've taken it's so tough for the Premier League and the FA to come to a conclusion on what's the best thing to do. Because they've got to have, there must be so many different angles they've got to look at and take into consideration. And if they think this is the best thing for not just everyone dying to see football again, and also for the safety of everyone wanting to see football again, and the players, of course. If this is the safest way of doing it and the earliest time we can get back into it, then great. Obviously, I'd like to think they've taken the necessary steps to make sure that this is the right time to be going back, and that the right steps are being made when we do go back. Neutral ground, like
They were saying
no one in the ground.
They were saying St George's Park. They could do a lot of the games.
Yeah, so it's not gonna. Again, is it worth doing that? And banging out the last 8 or 9 games of the season for every club, or avoiding it completely. Avoiding it is probably the last case scenario they want.
Yeah.
But equally, is that going to be the best case, and we just start fresh from the start of next season? Because this is going to have a knock-on effect for seasons to come. So next season, we obviously would start later if we do start in June, the rest of the games, because they need a break. Obviously, the players need a break. And then next season will obviously have a knock-on effect. You'll probably have to play more games in a shorter space of time in that season. And maybe even then you're not going to finish the games as early as you'd like. So that could even come into the season after. So it's so many different angles you've got to look at. So it's such a tough scenario for the FA and for the Premier League. But if it's the safest thing to do, I'm happy for it to come back, because we're all going to be happy for it to come back.
I was speaking to my mate about it, and we would, one game in particular, I don't know if you ever watched the highlights on BT, the Man United in the Europa League one, one of the last games that was played behind closed doors.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of that, and I remember, if you could, I just have the mindset of like behind closed doors is actually that the atmosphere of the fans is one of the most integral parts of watching it live or being there. Of course, is like
absolutely,
that's what is football. So if you score if let's say Palace play behind closed doors and Milivojevic scores a 30-yard screamer and it's just silence, it just doesn't have the same effect and the same roar as we know football is. I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, and you made, that is the best point that you made there. That it is, the fans are football, and it is everything. Everything you enjoy about football is enjoyable because of, especially when you go into a live game, is because of the fans and the experience that you have in a stadium, especially at Palace, where we are very lucky to have very good fans and very good atmosphere most of the time. So it's something that if they do play behind closed doors, you're going to miss that. Equally, as I said, every bad side, you may have a good side where you see fans maybe come together, get in groups to watch the game, because there's rumours that it could be free to view, or whole, there could be a package to watch all the games that are going to be, if we do go back to the season in June, all the games could be broadcast live, even no matter when they're played, which could be something good. And you could see fans get together to watch it, whether I don't know, pubs and stuff will be open at that point, but you could see fans get together in groups to watch it. Again, is that the safest thing to do? Will it be early enough to start getting into large groups, larger than 10, to watch football matches that are being played behind closed doors? So there's so many factors. But yeah, you're right. Without the fans, it's probably better to wait until until it's safe enough for fans to get into the ground.
I think that's it. My mindset on it does intertwine with like how much I am missing it, because I'm not missing it like as much as I see on Twitter, because obviously we all follow football accounts. I'm seeing someone say like, I don't know how to do, like, I don't know what to do with myself. And like, it does come into my head as well. Like, what do they do over summer? Because there is no football anyway. Then just treat it as that.
They moan about there being no football.
Yeah, it's just, but because I don't miss it as much, I just feel like, why risk anything? Because especially with like Roy Hodgson as well being over 70, would he even be allowed to manage the games? Like, would he even be able to go? Like, I just don't know
It's a fair point.
the point of it. It's just so financially, I feel like wholeheartedly is just to get people viewing it, and
Yeah, the whole thing is financially driven, of course. No matter what the FA or the Premier League say, they'll bring back the season because it's financially best, or it's going to be it all revolves around money at the end of the day. But yeah, you're totally right. And as you said before, just because you're not missing it as much as everyone else may be missing it, doesn't mean that you're not, don't love football any less. It's just you're getting on with your life probably better and coping with it better than other people can.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm coping okay. I've got other sports that, I'm a sports fan in general, which helps. I can watch reruns of famous golf tournaments or something like that, and I can take my mind off of football and, take my mind off of Twitter. I don't have to go on Twitter and look at all the football chat that's going on, and you can deal with it. It's not the end. It's not the end of the world, but I think it's just because no one's ever experienced this period of time at this point in the season as well. It's just new to everyone, and different people are coping with it better, and different people coping with it worse.
But you see, as you mentioned, because it was supposed to be about other sports as well. Wasn't the Grand National supposed to be the other, like the last month or something, and it was done virtually?
They managed to do the Cheltenham Festival, and there were big numbers for that. It was right on the verge of when sports games fixtures were being banned or being postponed because of it. And I think it was the week of the postponing of certain sports events, the Cheltenham Festival happened, which is the biggest horse racing event in the UK of the year. Over I think it's a 4-day period, sorry. And they had lower numbers, but still hundreds of thousands of people went across the each day. And then after that, about a few weeks later, would have been the Grand National, as you said. And that's historically one of the biggest races in the world, if not the biggest horse race. So yeah, there's I think they were right on the cusp. They were right on the cusp of it. And horse racing, you get so many people in such a confined area. It had to have been postponed. It had to have been stopped.
But it was done virtually, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. They're getting people doing virtual, and again, it revolves around money because it is the betting sites where you see it. So it's not. Again, is it out of the love of the sport? Are they giving sports fans what they want, which is in this case, horse racing?
Yeah.
Not really. They make some money because people are missing it, and if they were at the race, they would be betting, hopefully responsibly.
Yeah.
But and they're taking advantage of that, in my opinion. Virtual horse racing, what is that? It just sounds like a scam. It sounds like a scam. You could make any horse win on the day, couldn't you? It's a virtual horse race.
It's strange because there's a good question you asked. Like, for the fans themselves, is it the horse race in itself, or is it the adrenaline of the photo finish that could be done virtually? Like, is it the horse, or is it the like, I don't know, because with football you got the atmosphere. Football's different, but with horse racing it could be virtual and it would still have the same like effect on your like,
you could do. Speaking from experience, I think if you're actually, I've been lucky enough to go to a few horse races before in the past, and you get to wear the suit and you make an effort for it. It is an occasion, and it goes back to football. It's an occasion. It's an atmosphere. It's the environment, the people you're with. Maybe even more so than the actual sport itself. You're going there for the people you're with and the occasion, and there is an adrenaline rush whether you put a bet on a horse or not. When they're coming down the final straight, you could just with your mates, you pick, I think this horse is going to win. You don't have to bet on it, although most people do bet when they go there, of course. You can pick out a horse and you can still get extremely excited going down the final straight if there's a half a length in it between the front runners. It's and that you see that so many different sports, that sort of scenario. Going down the last hole at Augusta in the Masters, you've got Justin Rose, Sergio Garcia back in I think it was 2018. That they were neck and neck and
Mm.
they end up going to a playoff, it's you're getting a buzz and adrenaline because you're like, oh my god, it's right on tenterhooks. One of these guys is going to win and one of them's going to lose, and how's it going to pan out? It's the occasion and drama, which is why we all love sport. It's maybe even more so than the specific sport you follow.
Mm.
It's those specific moments and the drama that it creates.
I think the golf side of it, I was just thinking, because a lot of golfing tournaments were cancelled as well, all sporting is, but I was thinking, could golf be done, like golf behind closed doors could be done?
Absolutely. This is one thing I've said to my family and to other people. I was like, I don't get why some of the local golf courses. I do get it because the clubhouse
Yeah,
is
yeah,
probably not the best environment to be in when you're trying to socially distance. But if you shut off the clubhouse and you obviously somehow can patrol people in whether it's a members only course or a pay and play, you
mm.
can patrol the amount of people coming through the gates, which probably won't be that much anyway during this sort of period. And even at the best of times, it's very rare that you go on a day where the golf course is absolutely rammed
Yeah,
anywhere locally anyway. It's something where you're naturally, even at the best of times and the busiest times of the summer, you are socially distancing whilst you're playing golf.
yeah,
You're in a 4-ball, which is a maximum of a 4-ball, which is less than 10, which is what the government advise.
yeah,
Um, you've got loads of yards between you and the group in front,
mm.
between you and the people behind. Massive open area of grass, greenland. You're walking, so you're getting your daily bit of
Yeah, the out,
exercise.
yeah.
Your daily walk. For me, it's the one sport. Well, there's probably others if I thought about it a bit more in depth, but it's the one sport where I think they could still play, and it would be, and I don't think anyone can really argue against it, apart from, as I said, the clubhouse environment and how you'd get around getting people in and out the course safely. But
Yeah.
I think I'd love to. There's times I look at I drive past a golf course now, and I'm like, I'd love to go and play around a golf, and I don't know why I'm not being allowed to.
I mean, yeah, because it's the only time you're ever really interacting with people in golf, like close quarters, is like at the tee. That's it. Once you tee off, you will go your separate ways until you tee off
Especially
again.
me, one person goes left, one goes right
Yeah,
off the tee, or someone goes straight down the middle, and you're all
yeah,
doing your own game anyway. But yeah, and you're right, exactly. So it's one of the sports where they probably could have carried it on, to be honest, if
mm.
they thought about it. But again, safety first, I think is the way everyone's going, which is fair.
But yeah, when you're talking about coping with sport as well, when you're saying playing golf, like you wish you could play golf, I'm like wishing I could go down to like goals father side, do a little like, because that's like I was talking to my mate again when he was here. We were talking. I was at the end of my drive. He was in his car. We were talking, and I was just like, imagine goals right now, because it's annoying as well when you think sport. You want the weather. The weather's here, but
Yeah.
you've got to just take into account, because like Wimbledon's only been cancelled twice for the World War
Mm.
and now the coronavirus. So that in itself should be an indication how severe this is.
Yeah, seriously, is of course, and people still don't get it. You still see people getting in groups for a party.
Yeah.
Just as of the time we're recording this, I think earlier this morning it was Keane from Everton, the young Italian striker who spent 100 grand on a house party, and he had loads of people around. And he's been, obviously, Everton have come down on him quite hard. So
Yeah.
it's when you see like professional footballers doing that,
Jack
and
Grealish.
professional sportsmen, yeah. Kyle Walker, we all know
Yeah.
about Kyle Walker's antics. So it just got, you're not making it any better, and it's making you're just setting a bad example when more people are going to get involved in stuff they shouldn't be getting involved in. Just to flip a question back at you though, you mentioning that you're not necessarily missing football as much as maybe not as much you thought you were, but as much as other people are missing it. Are you missing more the playing side of it then? You mentioned five-a-side, the actual getting involved in sport and being active, that side of it.
I'm probably the fact that I'm home now, because obviously I was in Brighton for uni.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm home now and like it feels like summer kind of thing. The weather's nice.
Yeah.
I'm at home. I have uni work to do, but it's not as like serious. Like
Yeah.
it's like in this time normally we would go to the park or to goals, have a kick about. That's the side of it where I'm like thinking, that would be nice, but I don't. It's not something I'm like actively like disheartened by daily. You know what I mean?
I think it's interaction with your mates
Yeah,
and
but
the
also
people you're so close to that you can't. You're stuck. with your family. And for some people that's some people that's bad, so that you're stuck with your family 24/7. Other people are absolutely fine with it, but it's not being able to see your mates, your loved ones that you probably had plans, like we've had plans to go and see, you know, booking things, and now all of that's been cancelled. So it's I think that is the main factor. Sport is just sport in general, not just football, is a place where people can get together, especially on an amateur level, down the park or whatever, or golf, as we mentioned, even cricket down at the park. Where people get together, have a laugh, have a kick about, whatever. And it's about a community thing and engaging with your mates and having fun. And that's been taken away at the base level of sport, not let alone the professionals and what's happening when you're going to watch live sporting events. And that's what I think people are struggling with most, is it's that side of it, losing the connection with other people and not being able to get together and enjoy some sport, enjoy some active fun.
I think to kind of like just go back to Twitter real quick before like we conclude this. It's just like you see people, because there is no sport. You see in loads more people like bringing up who's better. Like, you know, like there was that whole Twitter argument, I don't know if you saw, between who's better, Drogba or Henry. Like you're seeing people like bring up.
You see a lot of those. Yeah.
So that's like one of the things that I'm thinking of, is like it's still. Like that's how powerful football sport is in general, because there is literally none of it, but people will still find a way to get into heated debates about it, whether it be a podcast like this or on Twitter on like a stupid little thread.
Absolutely. And you see some of the best. I know so on Twitter and social media, you get a lot of idiots on there, but you see again, it's a good side of sport where you see some ideas being thrown about and debate. And most of the time, it's friendly debate. Sometimes it gets out of hand, but it's debating topics that a lot of people care passionately about. And even boiling down to the media, it's at this time that we're experiencing now, equally is where you can see some of the best articles or the best pieces being made. Obviously, there's a lot of waffle out there for sure. I mean, places like TalkSport, Sky Sports, it's tough for them because they've got to have 24-hour broadcasting with absolutely nothing to talk about. So it's tough for them. But for people who are writing articles and for people, it's a chance to really show off your skills and hone down on a specific topic, a specific angle you want. And it's not about what's happening here and now, because there's nothing happening. So you've got to come up with something creative. And you know, and you're an example of it, doing this and doing the podcast, and it's a time where creativity can start flowing. And again, you see some good stuff coming out of it. So, all that, and Twitter is obviously the very base level of that. But it's an example of, you know, people having debates on Twitter. It's good. You get people talking and interacting, and they're enjoying talking about the sports they love.
I think that's a good way to conclude this. I definitely just you bringing up sports journalism. I think maybe if you would be down to, I wouldn't mind talking to you about that, maybe, because it could be quite beneficial for people to listen to. Obviously, you've done it in uni. But yeah, I think that's obviously everyone's coping with the lack of sport in their own different way. So as I said, some people on Twitter talking about it there, some people doing a podcast like this. But we all miss it to some extent. And it has such a big part in our lives. So so hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you very much, Harvey, for joining me.
Thank you, mate. I enjoyed it.
You can give your @ you've already said your @ but if you want to say it again for maybe Instagram or YouTube, I'll put it up above you.
Yeah, Twitter @RedandBlueSite, and I'll chuck the YouTube in there as well. Red and Blue Site YT. A lot of Palace-based stuff, but it's sport, it's football. If you enjoy football, if you enjoy some chat, I talk about other teams as well. But yeah, it's good. It's good. And for match day experiences, the vlogs are the thing now, aren't they? I do a lot of vlogs on the channel, not anymore, obviously, but watching back on some of the old games I've been to, vlogs, it's entertaining, you know, and it's a good time to be watching them, I guess.
Put on the City game last season, Palace City away, if you want to just get some more vibe of, if you're missing sport. It's a good one. But yeah, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to check out the others and like, subscribe, and all of that rubbish. Cheers. Nice one, Harvey.